To members of the advisory board, my name is Grace Kuhn, and I'm with the American Wild Horse Campaign, the nation's leading wild horse protection organization. I'm here to talk to you today about the existential threat to not only wild horses and burros, but to Western public lands as a whole, the livestock industry, and more specifically, the taxpayer-subsidized public lands ranching program. Now, I've been told by BLM officials that livestock and wild horses are separate. They like to say that one program has nothing to do with the other. But the truth is, they are so intertwined, we will not be able to solve the wild horse issue without addressing livestock grazing. When Congress unanimously passed the Wild Free Roaming Horses and Burros Act, it did so because wild horses were considered fast disappearing. Why? Mustangers. Ranchers and cowboys in the area would take it upon themselves to brutally round up wild horses from public lands and send them off to be killed. In 2021, Mustanging looks only slightly different from decades past. Instead of cowboys on horseback, it's cowboys in low-flying helicopters brought in to remove horses. Couture Livestock, Sunjay Livestock, Samson Livestock, you get the idea. They all contract with the BLM and the Forest Service to continue this modern-day form of Mustanging. Holding facilities where wild horses are stored by the thousands are also operated and owned by ranchers. It's not just the removals and holding facilities that they dominate, though. It's the land where wild horses roam. The arbitrary population limit the BLM sets for wild horses, the appropriate management level, is rigged to prioritize livestock. When the National Academy of Sciences conducted its review of the BLM's wild horse and burro program, it found that the agency looked at existing livestock grazing and wild horse habitat and then subtracted that from the total forage available to divvy up between wild horses and wildlife. I mean, take a look at this board, hand-selected by the BLM to help it make decisions about how wild horses and burros are managed. Tammy Pearson, one of the most recent appointments, is sitting on this board to represent public interest. She is a 40-year public lands rancher whose allotments lie in wild horse habitat. She has lobbied and testified for wild horse roundups and is in favor of horse slaughter. As she stated in her 2017 testimony before the Utah legislature, she discounted the overwhelming opinion of the American public who oppose the slaughter of wild horses as, quote, romanticizing an animal that the whole rest of the world considers a protein source. As a member of the Beaver County Board of Commissioners, Pearson even joined in a lawsuit against the BLM seeking the roundup and removal of most of the wild horses in the Sulphur HMA. Again, she was nominated to this board to represent the position of public interest. Public interest of who? Ranchers? Certainly not that of the 80% of Americans who want wild horses protected from roundups and slaughter. I've been working on this issue for 9 years. I've attended most of these advisory board meetings which produce nothing but the status quo of scapegoating wild horses and remaining completely silent about the millions of livestock on our public lands, specifically with all of these conversations surrounding drought. Start talking about it. Take allocation of resources into consideration. Make recommendations to reduce livestock grazing and wild horse habitat. Consider compensation for non-use, protecting apex predators, advocating for meaningful use of fertility control, and finally, petition to have Commissioner Pearson removed from this board as her position clearly violates the Federal Advisory Committee Act. I am out of time, so thank you for listening.